Welcome back. Today I want to go over some running form essentials, some things that will help you improve your running form and make it easier for you to run. But I did wear my shorty shorts to help demonstrate running for you, a couple principles. Now this video is not for someone if you are an advanced runner, don't worry about this. But if you're an intermediate runner, if you're a beginner, or if you hate running, if you're one of those three people, please listen for a minute because some of these tips can help you big time. I remember the first race I did, I was probably 25 or so. I showed up, didn't train for it, showed up in my high top shoes, my big baggy basketball shorts. And for about the first mile, I was doing pretty good. But then I noticed people, one after the other, just passing me on both sides. And it was so stressful because I was like just fighting so hard, lumbering along, trying to make it. And everyone else is just like gracefully and just like floating on air, just so, yeah, it was just so simple for them. And I didn't realize though until about 10 years ago, some of those principles and things they were doing that makes it easier to run. So I'm really excited to share these with you because they can make a huge difference they have in my life. And so I've got 6 things I want to share with you about biomechanics of running to make it better. Okay, so the first thing I want to tell you about is a forward lean. If you can just imagine that gravity's helping you run instead of you having to propel yourself, it's a lot easier with that mindset. I don't know if you've seen in the Winter Olympics when they do that long distance ski jump, when those guys go off the jump and then they just hold this position as long as they can until they land. But if you can kind of keep that vision in your mind that this is kind of what you want to be. You want to keep your body straight, but bend at the ankles. So kind of like Michael Jackson doing his dance thing, except you're going to move your feet. So just do this, and then as soon as you feel like you're going to fall, start running. But if you kind of have that attitude about it, that it's a falling with gravity, controlled fall, bending at the ankles, you're going to be a lot more successful because it's going to be a lot easier for your body to go along in that position. So that's the first thing, is to have that forward lean. Okay, the second thing is your foot placement. Ideally, it's best to have your foot hit the pavement when it's underneath your hip. So just right under your body weight instead of out here or behind here. So to do that, if you're taking too small of a steps, you'll find that you're probably running on your tiptoes. If you take big ones and you're overextending, then you're going to be hitting with your heel first and rolling. And that's called heel strike. Heel strike is like driving and putting accelerating, braking. It's just kind of doing that. So even though it's like more of a microscopic level, you don't notice it as much. You really are slowing down. Whenever your heel hits first and you roll, you're slowing yourself down. So you want to make sure and land with your foot between the arch of your foot and the ball of your foot. It's ideal just to be landing at that part underneath your hip when you're doing that. So foot placement can make a big difference to how fast you run. Okay, so for the third thing, it's going to be how your arms move when we run. Obviously, our legs are doing most of the work, but our arms help counterbalance and help propel us when we move them more. And one problem I see with this is sometimes we start to get our arms to cross this midline. If you were to dissect yourself right here down the middle and draw this midline here, you don't want your arms crossing that area. Naturally, some of us have a little bit more of an inward movement than others, or not everyone's straight like a robot. But there's 2 things you can do to help kind of visualize this to keep you from getting too much sway. I've seen some ladies jogging where they're like totally twisting their whole torso with every step, and that's going to really slow you down, make it a lot harder. So the first thing, imagine if there's just like 2 strings about chest level high, and you're kind of like on a railroad track with these strings, and you're just kind of pulling yourself along. If you can just kind of visualize that keeps your arms straight. Or if you've got ski poles, obviously you're not going to go like this with ski poles, but you're going to keep them straight like this. So anything you can do to remember, you just want to be as straight as you can with your arms. You don't want to be crossing the midline like this or twisting at the waist when you run. So that's the third thing, is the arm placement in motion. Okay, number 4 is to relax your hands and shoulders. That's kind of related to number 3 in a way. I see a lot of people when they're running, they get tired and they start to clench their fists. They got all this tension in their arms, and that's just wasted energy. So you want to relax your arms. One way you can do that is if you pretend you have a big potato chip in each hand between your finger and thumb. And if you're just holding it like that, just remember, you don't want to crack that, you just want to be soft. It helps you relax your hands. And this is a problem, especially on long runs. I've noticed a lot of people, their shoulders will start to tense up. And so as they get more running further and further and get more tired, their shoulders will slowly migrate up towards their ears, and you'll see them come in and they just got all this tension in there. So you just want to, shake your hands out, relax, do just a couple of shoulder curls when you're at a water station, or just take a little break every once in a while and just remind yourself to relax. When your upper body's all tight like that, you're not going to have good biomechanics on there. So that's number 4. Okay, number 5 is an easy one. You want to make sure and stand up straight. One problem I see when I get fatigued running, a lot of times I'll be kind of bent over like this. You don't want to bend over at the waist. That's going to mess up. You won't be able to get your full airway and diaphragm full of air. So you want to keep your head up, keep your chin up, be looking forward, and keep your chest open. So you can tell when people are really fatigued. If you look at the end of a long race, you see some of their form, they're just dying to get through there. But if you can keep your chest open, look forward, head up like this, it's going to help you a ton get better air exchange. So that's the fifth thing, is to keep your body tall while you're running. Okay, now the sixth thing, that is your stride rate. That's basically the speed at which your feet are hitting the ground, how frequently, the tempo that they're doing that. And so with that cadence that you're running on, one thing you want to watch and be careful for is if you're taking too big a strides, you're going to have a really slow stride rate, and you're probably also heel striking like I mentioned before. But ideally, it's better to take smaller, quicker steps. You'll have better form and be able to run better than if you're taking too big ones. You want to spend as little time on the ground as possible. And so ideally between like 160 and 180 contact to the ground per minute. So if you were listening to music and you were trying to listen to something to the beat of ideally running, if you were listening to a song that had like 160 beats per minute, you'd be able to run to the beat. That's about how fast ideally you're going to want to run on there. Everyone's a little bit different with their height and some other factors, but it's easier if you're doing a quicker cadence with your run than if you're doing it too slow or taking a too big a one. Okay, so the reason I showed you those things, if you can apply that, it will make running easier for you. It'll make you faster and more efficient. You won't feel so tired and burning up so much energy to do the same thing you were doing before. I saw once a triathlon that was being televised, and they talked about one of the competitors who was a great swimmer, great biker, and when he got to the running portion of the triathlon, he was like, they kind of joked how he kind of bounced when he'd run. He would bounce up so high with this extra height, where everyone else was just kind of moving along smooth. And they looked at it and analyzed it and said afterwards, basically, he was running an extra 2 miles over those 26 miles because he was using so much more energy because he didn't have very good biomechanics on that particular movement. And so it can make a difference. Some of you might say you don't run much, but you never know the day you might have to run for your life. So it doesn't hurt to try these things. So if you've got doctor's approval, you're okay, you don't have a blown out knee or something like that, instead of just walking all the time, I'd suggest that you try some light jogging, practice some of these things, and see it'll make a difference for you. Also, I encourage anyone, if you've never run a 5K, sign up for one. It's fine if you walk most of it, if you get tired, but just once you do that, it'll change your mind on races, and I'm a big fan of that. So I encourage you, if you've never done a 5K, sign up for one, do a little bit of training before, and it'll be a fun experience for you. But these are some things you can do to make running a more pleasant experience, and so you're not using so much energy and it's not so difficult. We just want to be able to make it more efficient and easier for you, and these are some things that can help with that.